Hello, my name is Anthony Arellano. What I am about to explain, in detail, is a system that makes up a global targeting, hacking, locking onto, and tracking of wireless electronics and wireless systems in almost anyone's home and automobiles, also providing audio surveillance, and provides audio, cognitive, and physical touchless torture. All done by saturation of a targeted area, all done by making simple modifications to an L11575.42 MHz microwave carrier signal. Yes, an L11575.42 MHz microwave carrier signal, the signal we use every day, it is our GPS signal. Yes, a modified spoofed strength adjustable L11575.42 MHz GPS pulse electromagnetic microwave phase locked tethering loop network cloud is responsible for producing attacks on targeted individuals and Havana syndrome attacks. You don't have to believe that this system I am about to explain to you is the system used to create these attacks, but know this, it does indeed do what I am about to explain to you, and terrorists, organized gang members, and hackers are using this all over the world and on innocent individuals. I implore you to fact check everything I am claiming. As I've said before, the catalyst for Havana syndrome attacks is a modified, strength adjustable L11575.42 MHz microwave carrier signal. Yes, the catalyst responsible for Havana syndrome attacks is a modified strength adjustable GPS signal we use every day. This is why I feel my family and I have been ignored after years of begging our American government and its agencies for help continuously, and being ignored continuously, to keep the secret that the carrier signal, the world uses daily, can be manipulated and modified to be used for hacking, surveillance, and touchless torture. Also, how embarrassing is it that America blamed Russia for these attacks, and now they will have to admit it is our own communications, navigation GPS, GNSS carrier signal responsible for Havana syndrome attacks. I will explain how all of this is done, and yes, I do have proof. Havana syndrome attacks are side effects from saturation with a spoofed differential vector phase locked loop. Terrorists, organized gang members, hackers are producing microwave phase data hacking, audio surveillance, tracking, and touchless torture. They rely, and are literally banking on the fact that government agencies do not want Also, how embarrassing is it that America blamed Russia for these attacks, and now they will have to admit it is our own communications, navigation GPS, GNSS carrier signal responsible for Havana syndrome attacks. I will explain how all of this is done, and yes, I do have proof. Havana syndrome attacks are side effects from saturation with a spoofed differential vector phase locked loop. Terrorists, organized gang members, hackers are producing microwave phase data hacking, audio surveillance, tracking, and touchless torture. They rely, and are literally banking on the fact that government agencies do not want to expose that they are using a spoofed GPS differential vector phase locked loop to perform acts of hacking, surveillance, tracking, and touchless torture. And they are right, because until this is exposed, they will always have the power to do whatever they want. They also count on the fact that the target is so afraid people will think they are insane, they will not report what is happening to them. That is why I realized I would have solved what Havana syndrome attacks are and what they do. So I did. My name is Anthony Arellano. I have solved Havana syndrome attacks, and my family and I are 12-year survivors from Havana syndrome attacks. It took me 2 years to realize I wasn't crazy, and 10 years of research and cross-referencing to match what my family and I were experiencing to find out what would cause the noises and pain we were and are experiencing. I know firsthand my research is correct. We are still being tortured with this system. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I have worked as a TV technical director, master control operator in charge of satellite communications, live feeds, and more for almost 20 years. Before all of this started to happen, I knew almost nothing about GPS data spoofing and what it could do. I have won an Emmy for the news broadcasting and production on the coverage of President Ford's funeral, 2006. I have almost 20 years of satellite communication experience and dealing with radio frequencies, radio signals, and 10 years of intense, crash course studies of GPS data spoofing. I am not a tinfoil hat wearing enthusiast. I am not responsible for Havana syndrome attacks. I have never produced a spoofed GPS signal ever. Now you are about to find out what makes up Havana syndrome attacks, and how our GPS microwave carrier signal L11575.42 MHz is being altered and modified to become the catalyst creating side effects electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome and microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect, aka Havana syndrome attacks. Havana syndrome attacks. Solved. How L11575.42 MHz is being used as the catalyst for the system responsible for Havana syndrome attacks. This system is known as a GPS data spoofing microwave network cloud with the ability to use our GNSS satellite system and Google Maps to saturate and achieve global targeting, remote wireless hacking of wireless electronics, binary code data sharing, monitoring, and manipulation of wireless electronics, provide surveillance, and create torture. How, you might ask? L11575.42 MHz microwave carrier signal is the same carrier signal we use every day with our GPS, GNSS, Google, and satellite system. This L11575.42 MHz GPS microwave carrier signal is not, I repeat, is not made just to be used by our GPS, GNSS system. It is an electromagnetic microwave radio frequency that can be modified, manipulated, become strength adjustable, and used by anyone. I am going to say this again. Our GPS GNSS system does not have exclusive rights to L11575.42 MHz electromagnetic, microwave, radio frequency signal. Anyone can manipulate and make modifications to these radio signals, and the modifications can produce catastrophic results. I am about to explain our world's GPS signal cannon is being converted into a GPS microwave data spoofing system with the ability to target, monitor, and hack wireless electronics, obtain surveillance, and provide touchless torture, physical and cognitive audio torture by bone conduction hearing, caused by microwave auditory effect hearing, leaving no evidence. Targeted individual is able to hear buzzing noises, cricket noise, and other audio, even voices, making targeted individuals looking schizophrenic, crazy. More than half of American diplomats that were affected by Havana syndrome attacks were spies. Now let me ask you this, does it make sense that someone is running around with a microwave ray gun just to zap people with microwave radiation to make them sick? Or does it make more sense that diplomats and targeted individuals are being struck with a microwave signal to achieve microwave data sharing, hacking, and obtaining microwave surveillance by being saturated with a modified, strength-adjustable L11575.42 MHz pulse microwave GPS carrier signal network cloud, producing side effects that would scare the target into thinking they are insane so they won't report the torture that they are experiencing? Diplomat spies being spied on and civilians having private information taken from right under their nose. Now that makes a little more sense. Diplomats and other government workers are not the only ones being targeted. This is happening all over the world, and our American government is ignoring human beings begging for this to stop, when at this point this problem needs to be addressed, fixed, and stopped. By fixing and stopping GPS data spoofing, Havana syndrome attacks, it will stop the loss of trillions of dollars, and stop the sharing of vital information around the world. My name is Anthony Arellano, and I solved what Havana syndrome attacks are, and that they are also what is used on targeted individuals by terrorists, organized gang members, and hackers around the world. All over the world, modifications are being made to the world's GPS signal L11575.42 MHz. It is being used to perform phase-synchronized hacking, surveillance, and torture. All done by saturation of targeted area with a direct, modified, strength-adjustable L11575.42 MHz. This process is called GPS data spoofing. Saturation by this process also causes side effects: electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome and microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect, aka Havana syndrome attacks. Terrorists, organized gang members, and hackers are creating a modified, strength-adjustable L11575.42 MHz using a hack RF RTL-SDR to combine this GPS carrier signal with a digital phase lock loop to create a differential vector phase lock loop. Yes, folks, that's right, the GPS signal we use every day can be modified and manipulated to hack, provide surveillance, and touchless physical and cognitive torture, all done by saturation from this system. A microwave carrier signal can carry and send binary code data. This is why the L11575.42 MHz is used, because it is the perfect catalyst able to hack and carry information, because it is a microwave carrier signal combined with a digital phase lock loop. You may as well consider this a master key with access to almost any wireless electronics in the world, able to penetrate almost any structure in almost all weather conditions. Second, because it is an L11575.42 MHz GPS microwave carrier signal combined with a digital phase lock loop, it can use Google Maps for targeting, and our world's GNSS satellite system for mobility. Programs to achieve this can be found anywhere on the web. All of this sounds a little too high-tech. Well, it is easier than one might think. Now, what makes up this system? 1. PC computer with Windows 10 or higher. 2. Hack RF1 RTL-SDR. Hack RF1. The Hack RF1 is a powerful and inexpensive radio transceiver, excellent for both sending and receiving radio signals in the 1 MHz to 6 GHz frequency range. This is responsible for creating the L11575.42 MHz GPS microwave carrier signal, and is able to combine and send all of these items on this list and send them out on a transceiver, because L11575.42 MHz is the carrier signal we use every day with our GNSS system. It is able to utilize Google Maps and GNSS satellite system for targeting. RTL-SDR. With the addition of the RTL-SDR, which can perform audio surveillance within saturated area, by combining the L11575.42 MHz, the digital phase lock loop with the SDR, this turns the targeted area into an FM radio station. The RTL-SDR turns digital data and audio into a frequency-modulated radio signal able to be used to record remote signals and perform audio surveillance from within saturated targeted area, and RETREIVED by RTL-SDRs within surrounding area, and RTL-SDR is very inexpensive and can be hooked up to a PC computer. The FM signal, created with the RTL-SDR, from within saturated area can be picked up by any home PC, with Windows 10 or higher, or by Android phone equipped with an RTL-SDR to perform like an FM radio, picking up an FM radio signal from a radio station. 3. L11575.42 MHz. The catalyst for this entire system. The GPS microwave carrier signal, which can, and is being modified and manipulated by anyone with the know-how, can be made into the backbone of this GPS data spoofing microwave network cloud, with the ability to create and perform phase synchronization with wireless electronics from within saturated area, perform surveillance, and touchless torture. GPS data spoofing microwave network cloud use the L11575.42 MHz signal to saturate a target for direct connectivity to perform microwave data sharing. More on this further ahead. 4. Digital phase lock loop. When the digital phase lock loop is combined with an L11575.42 MHz, this becomes a differential vector phase lock loop. The digital phase lock loop is able to perform all functions listed below from within targeted saturated area, saturated with it when all systems are combined. GPS data. Spoofing pulse, electromagnetic, microwave L11575.42 MHz, tethering network cloud connecting terrorists, organized gang members, and hackers to target. The digital phase lock loop is made up of three parts. 1. Phase comparator. 2. Loop filter, and 3. A voltage-controlled oscillator. This is used for manipulation of the strength of this system. The VCO is supposed to be used to create a stronger signal connection, but when used for torture, it creates different levels of torture inflicted upon target in saturated area by providing different levels of voltage, power provided, and oscillation. Digital phase lock loop, PLL applications. The phase lock loop takes in a signal to which it locks and can then output this signal from its own internal VCO. At first sight, this may not appear particularly useful, but with a little ingenuity, it is possible to develop a large number of phase lock loop applications. Some phase lock loop applications include FM demodulation playback. One major phase lock loop application is that of a FM demodulator. With PLL chips now relatively cheap, this PLL applications enables high-quality audio to be demodulated from an FM signal. AM demodulation. Phase lock loops can be used in the synchronous demodulation of amplitude-modulated signals. Using this approach, the PLL locks onto the carrier so that a reference within the receiver can be generated. As this corresponds exactly to the frequency of the carrier, it can be mixer with the incoming signal to synchronous demodulate the AM. And direct frequency synthesizers. Use within a frequency synthesizer is one of the most important phase lock loop applications. Although direct digital synthesis is also used, indirect frequency synthesis forms one of the major phase lock loop applications. Signal recovery. The fact that the phase lock loop is able to lock to a signal enables it to provide a clean signal, and remember the signal frequency if there is a short interruption. This phase lock loop application is used in a number of areas where signals may be interrupted for short periods of time, for example when using pulse transmissions. Timing distribution. Another phase lock loop application is in the distribution precisely timed clock pulses in digital logic circuits and system, for example within a microprocessor system, VCO. By adding the digital phase lock loop to an L11575.42 MHz, making a spoofed differential vector phase lock loop is how this system can use the digital phase lock loop for hacking by synchronization to wireless electronics and wireless systems connecting and locking on. While locking onto this wireless device, system tracking of the target can be obtained. Yes, this system can track the movement of a person's wireless electronics system and even connect, lock on and provide tracking of the wireless systems in a person's automobile's Bluetooth, satellite radio, etc. You may think this technology is very advanced, and it is, but we use this technology every single day. It's called your TV and TV remote control. This system works very much the same way you program your remote control to link up to your television and stays linked even when your TV is off. Think about that. The remote matches your television signal, connects to it, then locks on and has control of the TV by saturation of this spoofed differential vector phase lock loop. It works pretty much the same way. 5. GPS transceiver antenna able to send and receive binary code data. All of the items can and are ready and available to be purchased online. In fact, I implore that you do a Google search on every one of the items listed above, check their availability, price, and fact check what they do and if they can be COALITED, and see if I am telling the truth about what they are and what they can do. How microwave data sharing works. GPS data spoofing is responsible for producing side effects Havana syndrome attacks by saturation of a targeted area with an L11575.42 MHz GPS microwave carrier signal. Now why would this be done, you might ask? Well, microwave wireless electronic monitoring and manipulation of wireless electronics can be achieved by microwave data sharing. This must be done by line of sight connectivity, or by complete saturation of an entire area. GPS data spoofing takes care of that problem by saturating an entire area with a modified, strength-adjustable L11575.42 MHz GPS pulse electromagnetic microwave carrier signal to provide not only a direct line of sight but direct contact for direct connectivity to wireless electronics. Working like electromagnetic microwave network cloud, but with no password needed. Phase synchronization with wireless electronics radio frequencies using the digital phase lock loop. Differential vector phase lock loop takes care of connecting and locking onto wireless electronics within saturated targeted area. GPS data spoofing is a use and manipulation of an L11575.42 MHz microwave radio frequency carrier signal. A carrier signal can carry, send, and share binary code data, and radio frequencies, video, audio, data, and can be altered with modifications made with the aid of a hack RF. 1 RTL-SDR, and a digital phase lock loop. A digital phase lock loop which is incorporated with an L11575.42 MHz. This is done every day by every military agency around the world, which is called a differential vector phase lock loop. Our military is not using GPS data spoofing for illegal activity as far as I know, and in no way am I blaming them of doing anything illegal. Able to replicate, synchronize, and lock onto these radio frequencies used for satellite and radio signal connections, and more. When a digital phase lock loop, differential vector phase lock loop is used with GPS data spoofing, this enables this spoofing system to lock onto hack wireless electronics saturated by this microwave network cloud. Our world's GPS signal, L11575.42 MHz. Is being altered and modified by terrorists, organized gang members, to become the catalyst creating a global targeting network cloud able to use our world's GNSS satellite system and Google Maps to create a system able to target, provide phase synchronized connection with wireless electronics, hacking, provide audio surveillance with RTL-SDR, and touchless torture. Torture by prolonged saturation of L11575.42 MHz GPS microwave carrier signal. Power levels. Levels of torture are controlled by the voltage control oscillator, which is part of the digital phase locked loop. This process is called GPS data spoofing, producing Havana syndrome attacks by prolonged and/or intense saturation of targeted area. Now for the part everyone has been waiting for. The how. How is Havana syndrome attack cricket noise made? There are two syndromes made by being directly saturated with a GPS data spoofing network cloud. They are electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome and microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect. Together they are known as Havana syndrome attacks. These syndromes are created by being saturated with microwave radiation. Know this: if you are hearing the Havana syndrome attack cricket noise, you are being saturated, being hacked, and under surveillance right at that moment. The second saturation from this spoofed differential vector phase locked loop stops the ailments and side effects. Don't believe me? Walk into a room that performs MRIs that hasn't been used for 24 hours and the electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome and microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect clear up instantly. Copper room stops the BOMARDMENT immediately. Remember, this spoofed differential vector phase locked loop can track every ailment and side effect I am talking about. I know firsthand. Electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome, characterized by a variety of nonspecific symptoms, which afflicted individuals attribute to exposure to electromagnetic microwave fields, which includes being saturated with a GPS data spoofing system. The symptoms most commonly experienced include dermatological symptoms, redness, tingling, burning sensations. This system is at its core a pulse microwave carrier signal. The microwave radio frequency radiation heats water because the microwave radiation interacts with the dipole, separated positive and negative charge, of the water molecule. The microwaves turn the water molecules back and forth at approximately the frequency of the microwave signal, imparting energy to them. Our bodies are made up of 7 layers. The dermis portion of human skin, also known as corium, is the middle layer of skin that connects the outer layer, epidermis, with the underneath layer, hypodermis. Being 10⁻40 times thicker than epidermis, it stores much of the body's water supply. Its own water content is over 60%. GPS data spoofing causes the heating of the water in the dermis portion of the skin right underneath the epidermis, causing a severe burning sensation without leaving a mark. Itching, as well as neurasthenic and vegetative symptoms: vertigo, fatigue, tiredness, concentration difficulties, memory loss, headaches, body pain, lethargy, tinnitus, ringing in the ear, Havana syndrome attack cricket noise, dizziness, nausea, heart palpitations, heart arrhythmia, digestive disturbances, anxiety. The collection of symptoms is not part of any recognized syndrome. Microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect. This causes THERMOELASTIC expansion, swelling, and microwave heating of the cochlea and temporal lobe, enabling target mammals, humans within saturated area the ability to hear electromagnetic waves and radio frequencies and whatever is being carried on those radio frequencies, making target think they are insane, hearing buzzing, hissing, and even voices carried on the radio frequencies from within this system that would never be heard without the use of wireless communication electronics. Havana syndrome attack, voices. Let me start with the L11575.42 MHz microwave portion of this GPS data spoofing system, which with prolonged saturation causes electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome and microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect. Now, microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect occurs within the range of 200 MHz to 6 GHz and higher. GPS data spoofing occurs at 1575.42 MHz, 2.4 GHz, well within the range for microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect. When directly saturated for a prolonged period of time with a GPS data spoofing signal, the L11575.42 MHz microwave carrier signal, it causes THERMOELASTIC expansion. This is when the tissue in a mammal's, human's head swells, causing the cochlea and temporal lobe to swell, enabling target to hear electromagnetic waves. Radio frequencies also contributes to creating Havana syndrome attack cricket noise, which is sound caused by being saturated with a pulse electromagnetic microwave carrier signal, which is all part of this GPS data spoofing system. And any audio being sent on these radio frequencies from within this GPS data spoofing saturated targeted area can be heard by person inflicted with microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect. Now remember, this system is a phase-locked tethering loop connecting terrorists, organized gang members, to target with a carrier signal which can send, receive, and manipulate digital binary code and radio frequencies connected to this system. Terrorists, organized gang members, can add a radio frequency and a mic, and they can transfer audio onto the added radio frequencies, incorporating this audio radio signal to GPS data spoofing network cloud, which is saturating human, mammal, But the hearing of microwave pulses involves electromagnetic waves whose frequency ranges from 200 MHz to 6 GHz. A data spoofing system uses L11575.42 MHz, 2.4 GHz, which is well within the range for microwave auditory effect hearing prey effect. GPS data spoofing being an L11575.42 MHz microwave GPS carrier signal. Carrier wave provides global mobility and targeting for this system with the addition of the digital phase locked loop. This then creates synchronization, connectivity, and locking onto targeted area. Since electromagnetic waves, e.g., light, are seen but not heard, the report of auditory perception of microwave pulses was at once astonishing and intriguing. Moreover, it stood in sharp contrast to the responses associated with continuous wave microwave radiation. Experimental and theoretical studies have shown that the microwave auditory phenomenon does not arise from an interaction of microwave pulses directly with the auditory nerves or neurons along the auditory neurophysiological pathways of the central nervous system. Instead, the microwave pulse, upon absorption by soft tissues in the head, launches a THERMOELASTIC wave of acoustic pressure that travels by bone conduction to the inner ear. There, it activates the cochlear receptors via the same process involved for normal hearing. Aside from tissue heating, microwave auditory effect is the most widely accepted biological effect of microwave radiation with a known mechanism of interaction, the THERMOELASTIC theory. So what the target diplomats, civilians saturated in this spoofed differential vector phase locked loop microwave network cloud used for hacking, surveillance and touchless torture, are actually hearing is a mixture of electromagnetic induced tinnitus with the combination of a pulse electromagnetic microwave radio frequencies in a phase locked loop. This is all done by being saturated for a period of time with the L11575.42 MHz GPS microwave carrier signal, the catalyst for a GPS data spoofing system. This is why when first responders show up and do not hear anything, it is because their bodies have not had time to absorb the microwave radiation produced by the spoofed microwave network cloud saturated area. A person must be saturated for a period of time with a modified spoofed GPS microwave L11575.42 MHz network cloud to be stricken with Havana syndrome attacks, microwave auditory effect hearing, which means if they are experiencing symptoms, they have been under surveillance for a while. The voltage control oscillator from the digital phase locked loop controls how much power is fed into this system or taken, so the more, less power the stronger, weaker the electromagnetic phase locked loop, the more, less pressure and sound the target experiences, and the more, less torture the target is put through. The side effects from this global, hacking, surveillance, targeting system makes the targeted individuals think they are going insane, thus stopping them from reporting these attacks. Ways to detect a Havana syndrome attack: being saturated with a GPS data spoofing L11575.42 MHz pulse microwave GPS carrier signal network cloud. GPS spoofing, which is interference with indirect pulse electromagnetic microwave carrier signal network cloud, which saturates a targeted area. This then interrupts the target's normal GPS signal. This is how diplomats and basically anyone can tell immediately if they are under a GPS data spoofing Havana syndrome attack. 1. Google search their immediate location, the address they are at right at that moment then. 2. Bring it up on Google Maps. 3. The blue location indicator will be moving independently as opposed to actually showing the true location of user, target, and at times not even in the approximate location that the diplomat target are in. GPS data spoofing is made up with oscillating electromagnetic waves, microwaves, and radio frequencies. Oscillation, which can be controlled with the VCO from the digital phase locked loop, produces low to moderate forms of radiation which can be detected by a thermal camera. I have proof. Not infrared but a thermal camera. It looks like a glowing wall around targeted area. It also radiates the target's water supply, and that can be seen as well with a thermal camera. Our diplomats and people around the world are being hacked, tortured, and under surveillance, all done by modifications made to an L11575.42 MHz microwave GPS carrier signal. In conclusion, this GPS data spoofing system is a pulse electromagnetic microwave phase locked loop network cloud able to hack wireless electronics, track and perform surveillance on targeted area person, and finally able to torture a mammal human by using the best targeting and mapping system known to man. Our GPS GNSS satellite system. I use the word mammal because these GPS data spoofing systems also torture the target's household pets, and they use this to their advantage. One other telltale sign that you are under a GPS data spoofing attack is the dogs in the neighborhood are going crazy barking. My dog Piper was raised in this madness, so when it is very severe, that is when she will start rubbing her head or stare at the wall. My name is Anthony Arellano. I have solved Havana syndrome attacks in my family, and I are 12-year survivors from Havana syndrome attacks. It took me 2 years to realize I wasn't crazy, and 10 years of research and cross-referencing what my family and I were experiencing to figure out what would cause this to happen. So I know firsthand my research is correct. We are still being tortured with this system. Local authorities said there is nothing they can do. Government agencies, after hundreds of emails and begging for help, have ignored our pleas for help. We have been asking hell, begging for help for years.